This is lesson 2 from our series, How to Play Blues Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain the 12-bar blues form. I'm currently working on the corresponding How to Play Blues Guitar e-guide. The e-guide will follow right along with each video lesson to help you get the most out of this series. It will include all the charts and diagrams for each video lesson as well as bonus content. It will also come with play-along tracks to practice along with. And I'm offering you this e-guide completely for free. To learn more, click the link on the screen or look in the description below. So most of blues is based off the 12-bar blues form. There are older styles that aren't, and there's some different styles that use variations of the 12-bar blues, but the most basic blues form is called a 12-bar blues, and it's used in not only tons and tons of blues songs, but also a lot of pop songs as well, pop and rock songs. So once you hear it, you're going to most likely recognize it. If you listen to Western music at all, you're going to recognize the form in one way or the other. It's going to sound familiar to you. So I really can't stress enough how important it is to learn and master the 12-bar forms, to really understand it and know how to play it, because if you want to play blues, you have to play the 12-bar blues. And even if you play other types of music or learn other songs, you're going to find it a lot. So what is a 12-bar blues? If I was to play it for you right away, you would, I'm sure, recognize it as soon as I played it. But before I do that, I want to show you on this chart what's actually going on, so it's a lot easier to visualize. And I created this chart in iReal Pro, which is a really cool jam track software. And if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description. So if you don't know what a bar is, it's just a unit of measurement in music. So looking at this basic chart, where you see these vertical lines, those are what are called your bar lines, every one that you see. And in between there is what are called your bars. So your bar lines separate your bars, or they're also called measures, but in blues you call it a 12-bar blues, so I'm just going to call them a bar. A bar and a measure are the exact same thing. So if we were to look at this, we have 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar, here's 5, and so on. And if you keep counting, you end up with 12 bars. So this is why it's called a 12-bar blues, because you just have 12 bars. When you get to that 12th bar, when you're through the 12th bar, you just go back to the first bar and repeat. And you just can keep going and going as many times as you want. Or when you're ready to end, you would go through your 12th bar and then end back on your 1 chord in the first bar. And then within this 12-bar form, you have your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord, and they land in specific spots. Now, there are variations. This can get pretty advanced. It can even get into jazz changes, but it's all built on this basic structure. So we want to start at a really basic level, and then we can keep building from there. So in one of the most basic forms of the 12-bar blues, you would have your 1 chord for 4 bars, and then your 4 chord for 2 bars, back to your 1 chord for 2 bars, then to your 5 chord for 1 bar, then back to your 4 chord for 1 bar, then back to your 1 chord for 1 bar, then back to your 5 chord for 1 bar. And then you could just start over back at your 1 chord again and just repeat this or end on that 1 chord in the first measure, first bar. And so obviously we've been talking about the key of A, so I have these all written in the key of A. So A is your 1 chord, D is your 4 chord, and E is your 5 chord. And like I said, you're not going to have just a basic A major triad, D major triad, E major triad in the blues. It's either going to be a power chord or a 7th chord. But for now, we're looking at power chords, so you have an A5, D5, and E5. So that's your basic structure of a 12-bar blues. It's always going to be like this. If we were in a different key, for example, if we're in the key of E, your 1 chord would be an E5, your 4 chord would be an A5, and your 5 chord would be a B5, or they could be E7, A7, B7. And they would still land in the same spot. So you'd have E5 for 4 bars, then A5 for 2, E5 for 2, B5 for 1, A5 for 1, E5 for 1, B5 for 1, and then start over. It's always going to be the 1, 4, and 5 in these spots in this basic form. And like I said, there's variations that I'll talk about later, but we need to start here and we can build on it. Now, if you're totally confused about this still and what bars are, again, it's just a unit of measurement within music. And within each of these bars, you're going to have what are called beats. And the beats are just a constant pulse that go through. And in this case, you have 4 beats per bar, which are 4 quarter notes. So within each of these, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're on to the next bar, and again you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, you're on to the next bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. And those little slashes I'm drawing would just represent a quarter note beat. And just so you can really hear it, I'm going to play this backing track with just the drums, and I'm going to count along to it. And I'm going to count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12, 2, 3, 4, just so you can hear me count all the way through 12 bars. But if I was counting this, I would just probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The nice thing about counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and so on is that you always know what bar you're in. It's easier to keep track. But it gets a little tricky because when you count something like 11, 2, 3, 4, that double syllable of the 11 can kind of mess up your time if you're not careful. But don't worry about that for now. I'm just going to count it that way just so you can hear it and get a little better understanding of what's going on. So I'm just going to play this basic drum beat and count along with it all the way through the 12th bar. And it's going to start off with 4 clicks, and those 4 clicks are what are called a count-in, and those are just counting 4 quarter notes or 4 beats, which would be the same unit of measurement as one of these bars, but it just gives you a chance to start. So you have a count-in and then you're into bar 1. So you'll see what I'm talking about as I count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4. And then you'd be back in your first measure again on the 1 chord and can start over or end on that chord. And again, if this is confusing, don't worry about it. We can come back to this over and over again. It's going to make sense as you're going through this series. And like I said, when I actually play this for you, when I play it on the guitar, you're going to hear the form of the blues. It's such a common sound in Western music that you'll know it right away. But I wanted you to have the chart to actually be able to visualize what's going on. And like I said, even if it's confusing now, you can always come back to this and it'll make more sense down the road. So that's a basic 12-bar form, but there's also a next step you could add into this to spice it up a little bit, and that's what's called the quick change. So here is a 12-bar form with a quick change. And the only difference between what I just showed you and this one is that in the second bar, you switch to the 4 chord instead of staying on the 1 chord. So in the last one, it was 4 bars of the 1 chord to start. In the quick change version, this is your quick change. You're switching to the 4 chord in the second bar. But that's the only difference. Everything else stays the same. So you switch to the 4 chord for 1 bar, and then you're back to your 1 chord for 2 bars, and then everything else is the exact same. And as I play this, you'll be able to hear the difference, and they'll both sound familiar to you because they're both really common ways to play the blues. But like I said, what I showed you in the first chart was the basic form, one of the most basic forms, and then you can continue to spice it up. And this is one of the most basic ways to spice up the form by adding this quick change, which is changing to the 4 chord in the second bar instead of staying on the 1 chord for the first 4 bars. But if I was to play and count along with this, it would count the exact same way that I just counted it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And just so you know, if this is all new to you, how fast I count it is just how fast the tempo is set. So the speed of music is called the tempo. So these bars stay the same no matter what, and the tempo is just how fast this is played or counted. So I could count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and so on, or it could be a really fast tempo and it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Nothing about this form or where the bars are, where the chords end, any of that changes with the tempo. And what I counted before was at 90 beats per minute just because it's a more of a medium tempo, not too fast, not too slow. So now I'm just going to demo the 12-bar blues using the 3 chords that we learned in the last lesson, the A5, the D5, and the E5. I'm going to keep it really simple and I'm just going to play quarter notes. So for every bar, there's just going to be 4 strums. So this isn't going to sound very bluesy, but what we're most worried about for this lesson is the actual form, the 12-bar form. I'll show you how to make it sound bluesy in the upcoming lessons. But like I said, for now, it's really important to be able to count and understand the 12-bar form before we do anything more advanced. So the first time I play this through, I'm going to play it without the quick change. And then the second time through, I'll play it with the quick change. And I'm just going to play it without a backing track and keep it really simple, like I said, with just quarter notes. So even though I wasn't being very bluesy in this, and I was just playing quarter notes, I'm sure you could hear the 12-bar blues form, and I'm sure it sounded familiar to you if you listen to Western music at all, because that form is used all the time, like I said, not just for blues, but also in pop and rock and other genres as well. So for practice, do what I just demonstrated. Play the 12-bar blues form with the power chords. So A5, D5, E5, and just follow along with the form. Look in your e-guide. It has the chart showing you where the chords change. And don't worry about playing it in time super well or anything like that. Just get used to playing those chords and changing at the appropriate time, meaning you play one bar of A5, and then if you're doing the quick change, you play one bar of D5, and then so on. You just play those chords in the bars that I showed you as we went over the form. And when you start off, you can start off without the quick change until you have that down, and then do it with the quick change. And like I said, just play quarter notes, and you can play it way slower than I did it. I did it a little faster than I would recommend you starting it unless you are already fairly proficient in playing these chords and strumming. I just did it a little faster so that it wouldn't take forever to get through it. But you can play it as slow as you need to. So that's an explanation of the 12-bar blues form and how to play it with the chords that you learned in the last lesson. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to actually make that form sound bluesy. So we're going to play the 12-bar blues form, but in the next lesson, we're going to make it sound more bluesy. So thanks for watching, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and keep moving forward.